represented by Saturn are not necessarily, fun like Venus, but they're quite useful. Also mention that Saturn is exchanging houses with Mercury. In other words, Saturn, the house that Saturn rules, Mercury is positioned there, and the house that Mercury rules, the 11th and the 2nd, but in the 11th, Saturn is placed. They're they're in each other's house, and this relates them. It's kind of a little special wiring. Saturn represents logic. Mercury represents analytical thinking, and they're strengthening one another, and this correlates your 6th and your 11th houses. Once again, this situation is going to expand with each passing year above and beyond the maturing of the planets. The other thing we should look at is you'll be in a Saturn period, age 35, 36. You'll be in a Saturn with an exalted Venus when Saturn comes of age. And during that year, 35 to 36 birth year, you'll reap some benefits from this Saturn by its placement. And immediately following that, you drop into a Saturn Sun. Whenever Sun and Saturn come together, it generally makes for a spiritual seeker. So it looks like something will happen right in that time period, and then you'll make some spiritual breakthrough. All of these can be discussed in much greater detail. The detail of these, you have a major dasha period like Saturn. It's broken down proportionally by their varying time periods by the 9 planets. Each of those time periods again are broken down, and each of those are broken down by the 9 planets. And it goes on down and down to smaller and smaller measurements of time until you reach the inhalation and exhalation of each breath. This is an immaculately exact system that describes how time and exists, how time manifests in events in the fabric of the space-time continuum and all, how things happen here. It's quite an accurate layout. Once it's delineated, then the characteristics of some of these formations, which repeat, will occur and are totally predictable. You can just sit there with your hand out. Age 45, then you hit a Mercury time period, which is placed in the 6th and has to do with the 2nd and the 11th houses. And during this time period, you will have 2nd house matters, which have a lot to do with money. Even though the ruler is a little beat up by Mars and by being in the 6th house, you have these very strong Jupiter and Venus aspects from the 8th house on the 2nd. And, of course, the 11th house is very strong, as we already know. And during that Mercury time period, even though you've just come out of a Saturn period, by the time you get to the Mercury period, by rulership, it will continue to involve the 11th house. So whatever career area you build as you go through your life, it's going to be for the long haul. There's definitely, related things happening. It's not some people's lives, like they build things up and it all gets wiped out. Not with you. Things, because of all of these growing houses, 3rd, 6th, 10th, and 11th, you're going to be continuously building. Things will build on themselves. You don't have to worry so much about anything particularly disappearing and having to start from zero all over again. The last thing that I'll talk about here is the how you can fudge this. In fact, for some people, especially if you have a little wish power, it can appear, even in a system that's rooted in predestination and prediction, that you have a certain amount of willpower, or there are things that you can do, but this is encompassed within the range of the system also. But you can enjoy them nonetheless. It's kind of fun. You don't need to look at the puppeteer's strings too closely. Just enjoy the show and, have some fun. You are, after all, supposed to be enjoying this lifetime. It's in enjoying things that you get flow, that you get you open up your effectiveness. In any case, there are 3 ways, and that's about it, for affecting this. Otherwise, you're born with these cards, and you have a lot of really wonderful stuff, even if you might get depressed from time to time with this Rahu in the 4th house until you get a little older. As these planets mature and the planets get stronger, you're going to find that these other areas basically take over, and you're going to be a pretty strong individual. In any case, the 3 areas are first gemstones. Since the oldest scriptures like the Rig Veda, precious gemstones, we're talking diamonds, rubies, emeralds, etc. The reason these are precious is because they relate to these different energies. Now, in terms of what am I exactly talking about? You can imagine if I ask you to hit an A sharp note for me right now. For most people, you may not be able to do that. But if I had a piano sitting here and I hit an A sharp, just about anyone could probably match that, because you can hear what I'm talking about and you can match your voice to it. It's the same way with these precious gemstones. It's not that they have some mysterious power or whatever. There's actually only one power pumping our lungs and breathing us, and that's pure and perfect love. It is magnificence itself, and it is the privilege of having a human form to be able to go back inside, using this human form to go inside and to take our consciousness and merge it back into this pure and perfect love and magnificence, and therefore attain enlightenment and the answer to everything, which is what makes having a human form the crown of creation for those individuals who get the big prize. But that's only one energy. But each culture languages how this energy manifests. We talk about this characteristic way it manifests or that characteristic way, and it could be your enthusiasm, your anger, your bliss, your logic, your emotions, your whatever. And so each culture has their own astrology, which is rooted in the languaging, which is quite powerful. And so there are just language approaches to this one energy. And so each of these stones, and relative to each of these planets, is merely by the virtue of its, the optics and the hardness and the characteristics of the color and the cut and the mineral itself, somehow in concentrating on your attention on this particular stone, it has been found that it can improve. It's like that little note. It's like a little piece of it, and you can pay more attention and learn to utilize one certain aspect and thereby strengthen it by strengthening your ability to concentrate on that energy. So it's like a little training wheel or a cue, and it can produce phenomenal results depending on the layout of your wiring. For some people, things get so tangled up that there's no way of improving things without creating problems. And so it's very individual, and I work very closely with people in this respect. Mercury, which I had sent you a stone, can open up communications. Your Mercury is a little assaulted, and it would strengthen 2nd and 11th house matters, and is in the 6th house, and it would even improve Mars by aspecting it favorably. So in concentrating on that, it would have a lot of effect also on the 4th and the 9th houses. It's a lot of different areas, but we should discuss specifically what it is that you would want to improve in your chart if you want to work with the gemstones. And I insist that we have a nice long discussion so that it's not anything mysterious and you can see the results. This is Hindu astrology. We're talking about real-time manifestation of actions, and you should see real results, and in fact you can. The second area are, and similar to the layout of the gemstones and what I just said, are ancient Sanskrit chants which relate to each of these planets. If you're into chanting can be very, very powerful, and there are chants and ways of going about working with the vibration in you that will draw your attention to one particular planet or another. And the third area is the people that you match yourself with. People as in individuals, for joining with them for any action, or groups of people, which also has to do with what location you're at, because we have like formal groups of people like corporations, cities, counties, states, countries, and all of that. And so these are like other charts or groups of energies that either blend well with your energies or don't. In fact, on your own, an individual as an island to themselves can only get to about a third. Geometrically, you can just only get to about a third of the energies, layouts, and human potential that you have, that you're born with. We were built to interact with other people, and finding right people to be with where we have we unlock our human potential and our enjoyment in this life is very, very important. We're meant to fit in with other people directly, and this means one-on-one and directly, not through not just through other media, but actually interacting with their energies. Like if you have two people and they want to dance, they have to be at least minimally compatible to the point where they don't step on each other's toes. There's a certain amount of rapport there that's necessary, and so it is given any area of activities in life that the people that you work with, there's a need to find compatibility, synergy, a positive blending. I've done a lot of study in this area and have done a lot of research, and I'm going to be releasing a book and a computer program and all in this area, which will help a lot. And everyone largely grows up with some understanding that if you hang around quote-unquote bad people, then it rubs off on you somehow. And in fact, there are people, they needn't be criminals, there are some people, and actually the bulk of humanity is largely nothing special and can be a very poor match for you. You have to be very careful if you're going to unlock things, to find people you're highly compatible with, and statistically this is very, very difficult. In fact, mankind has used technology to accelerate telecommunications and transportation. We now, in our present use of technology, can interact with hundreds more people than, for instance, our grandparents could. But we have not used technology or improved our wisdom for interacting, or our selectivity of interacting with other people, any better than our grandmothers. So all we're doing is increasing cancellation of human potential as fast as internet is spreading. So I am very diligent and hoping in the next as the next few weeks and months go by, that I can get a system available that will rapidly spread, so that people can find those 1 in a million individuals in all areas of human activity, where when they come together, the energy waves combine positively and unlock human potential. That's where the magic is. And right now, the wisdom that ancient kings and queens had, who were mystics, who their people loved them, they had wisdom. They knew how to match their people. They knew how to make things work by the natural order. Well, all that wisdom is gone. Our leaders have lost all of that wisdom. It's not there anymore. And so the question is how to rebuild this understanding at the end of this dark age that we're in. We're approaching all kinds of difficulties as far as the world circumstances. We have a very difficult few years ahead of us, with some very scary things happening. And after we weather through that and get into the next millennium and weather a few more difficulties, we'll proceed in the course of time to head towards the end of the Mayan calendar around 2012, which is an exalted period for population-wide spiritual blossoming, which is supposed to initiate the Sat Yuga, the Age of Enlightenment. We're leaving the Age of Darkness, Kali Yuga, and at that point we're supposed to somehow connect with 1,000 years of peace. So between here and there, in the next 14 years, we've got a lot of transformation to go through, and there's going to be a lot of pressure along the way. In any case, as a backdrop to all of this, because you're not living your life in at the height right now, at the height of the the new golden age. You're living it right now and we're headed towards World War III, Armageddon, Reign of Terror, third Antichrist, all of this exciting stuff as we kind of stumble into the next millennium, and yet we need to weather all of this nonetheless. So that basically concludes most of the stuff that I wanted to cover when I do a reading, and at this point